Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. I am so glad to be here with you all. It is really the throes of the holiday season. As I'm recording this, we are right on the precipice of Thanksgiving. And again, I appreciate you guys coming back here. I thought, we always talk about Thanksgiving, and obviously it's a beautiful holiday. It's a way of giving thanks. However, you might be facing some resentment this holiday season, maybe ways that people don't celebrate the same way you do or have the same values. You're meeting with family or friends, right? Coming together, and there's unfortunately tensions. There's values that clash, possibly, like I said, resentment there. And I have worked my way through a lot of resentment in myself and others, quite honestly. I'm just being real with you. And so I thought, we always talk about gratitude, but there's a wall of potential rage, irritation, frustration you may be facing. I'm going to be hitting the Attack with the Stack book today based on Living the Warrior's Way. You guys have heard me talk about the Stack today, but but in the past episodes about reframing your story. And I thought, I wanted to help today where are you facing resentment of the way others are showing up, and how do we get at that? Number one, do we even recognize that we have that? And so I'm going to give you a simple framework called the Stack, where we break it down and how to get at releasing our rage, if you will, taking action. So, there's rage, there's irritation, frustration, there's a lot of different emotions, but we want to get at that because that root, that is poisonous to us. That resentment, that bitterness, you've heard that saying, one bad apple ruins the bunch. It's true because it's just like cancerous. And we don't want you to have cancer. We don't want you to be contaminated by that resentment, but we want you to be set free. That's why I have the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast here to help you become that most intelligent leader, knowing yourself better to help lead others by leading yourself well. So, what does that come from? What does that resentment come from? It may mean unmet expectations. Maybe you feel invalidated, by different values or different, misunderstandings or misconceptions. I know I've dealt with that personally, from marriage to friends to coworkers. And then when we're in these holiday situations where we're with people we don't normally associate with, possibly, who have very different values, different political views, religious views, you runs the gamut, right? That trigger us to be angry, to trigger us to be upset, to trigger us to be almost, if you're not careful, in a victim mentality, the way that they may come off rude or insensitive, unthoughtful. These things can all contribute to resentment. And so it should be a signal to you that we need to clarify what's causing that. In the last episode, we were talking about communication code, and we talked about celebration. There's another component called clarity that we're looking at. clarity in communication, clarity in understanding, so that we can own our emotions, our facts, and transform ourselves regardless of how somebody else is going to show up. And so we can reframe how our interactions are going to be with each other's and look at it as a way of growth. And that is powerful. That is liberating. That is getting you to in a place where you're rising above it all and you're not being sucked down into the bitterness, resentment, frustration, those emotions that start flying around, and see people's hearts hardened. You see people go to their corners, and it's really sad. It really is sad to see that and to see families, organizations torn apart by that. And so I want to help you rise above it. I want to help you here in this podcast episode be more aware and have a tool and a resource that you can do every day if you so choose. When I've done literally 1,000 stacks on of all different types. And I'll show you more about that here. For those of you that are listening, I also do a video feed here, so you can catch me on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, look up Steward Your Business. I'm there. And I would love to have you guys follow along there. So, when we look at this and understand that resentment is a feeling that many of us have. I think we're coming out of political season. Some people are very happy with the political outcome of the president. Other people are very disturbed and frustrated and have a lot of resentment. In fact, not just for the president who's in that office, but for the people that voted for this president. Again, I don't really care what spectrum you're on of this. What I'm trying to get at is that we all have forms of resentment, and it eats away at us if we're not aware and understanding of that. You may not even understand the resentment that you have. I had to have a mirror pointed back to me. It kind of came out. It oozed out, if you will. Unfortunately, it will come out. And for those of you that are not cognizant of that, generally, in my experience, it comes out either passive or passive aggressive, which is not pretty to see. Having one that's a recovering passive aggressive man. So one of the ways we do this is, again, I'm going to talk and give you a simple framework here on the podcast today to help you overcome the limitations of self-imposed resentment. First is you got to stop. There's a framework of stopping and identifying what is this trigger. I mean, you may think you could do it quickly, but sometimes our emotions, somebody just says something or behaving in some ways, you're not sure even what it is exactly. What's the feeling that's coming from? Is it being dismissed by a family member? Is it being talked to like in a condescending way, right? Is it their opinions on certain values or ways of being? Okay. Stop and identify the trigger. Identify whatever that is. And again, this is our fight, our flight, our reptilian brain, if you will, where we want to just go after somebody or we want to run away. And so what I want you to do is just stop and don't make a move either way. Just let it wash over you. Try to get perspective here so that you can evaluate, what is this trigger? What is this tendency that's hitting me? The thing about triggers or tendencies is they generally will never go away, but they're a way that we get hit in a certain way, a button, if you will, that's pushed. And it's like, it triggers us. It makes us step up. It makes us respond. And then we want to be able to be proactive and not reactive. We don't want to just, go flailing around. So when we do that, the next step in this process, stopping, number 2, is we're going to submit. We're going to take whatever that is. We're going to acknowledge the emotions. We're going to take the story that's facing us, whatever that story is. This person just pissed me off. This person is saying lies. This person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? We're going to take all that and we're going to submit it. We're not saying it's right. We're not saying it's wrong. We're just going to take it. And we're saying, look, we're acknowledging all of these things. We're getting at the facts, right? And what we're getting at is we're going to struggle with this. So we've stopped, number 1, figured out our trigger and tendency. Number 2, we're submitting. We're taking all this data. We're taking all this information, right? We're like putting it into the computer. We're taking that. And now once we take all that in, right? All the emotions, the facts, it's all swirling around. we are going to struggle. We're going to wrestle with it, if you will. We're going to go into the tension of discovering what is the truth, what is the reality that really is here. We want to challenge our assumptions, our way of understanding things, that align our response to our higher self. Who do we want to become? We don't want to devolve. We don't want to go to the lowest common denominator, because you see that happen in our world today. It's destructive. It's deadly. It's not the kind of world I want to live in. And it's one that I want to struggle internally and get at the root of whatever this is. And I'm going to show you here even a way that you can access this tool and where you can find this today, and on the Warrior app, in the Wake Up Warrior app, and it's what I provide as part of my coaching and the Steward Your Business. But this whole framework of stopping, submitting, and then struggling gets at striking. Now, you can't strike, you can't make an action, you can't make a declare an intention, how you're going to show up without going through these other things. You just can't. There's no shortcut around this. It's really important. And the submitting and struggling is really hard for a lot of people. Number one, you might be able to stop yourself in a moment. If you get practice, good awareness, you're awake to this, you may be able to stop yourself. But exercising the ability to actually submit, take all this information in, and then struggle with it, really challenge your assumptions. One of the ways we do this is called a mega stack or a rage stack in here. And the book actually walks you through this. And this is something that I teach on and share on, and I've been trained in Wake Up Warrior. But we go through kind of what we call walking the block, if you will, of what's our way of understanding, what's kind of the opposite of what we understand it to be. We're looking at what is our desired outcome, possibly, and we're trying to look at it from different ways, different angles, if you will. And so when we look at that, we are challenging our assumptions. We're challenging our story. We're challenging our narrative, because it may not be true. In fact, it likely is not, or there's a partial truth there. And we have to face the reality of that. Or we can stay in denial and we can lie to ourselves. But from my experience, that's not living a very fulfilled life, and it leaves you wanting. And so I want to encourage you here, if you just even remember this basic 4-part framework of stop, submit, struggle, and then strike. The strike can only come when we have a new story, a new desired outcome, a new narrative that is going to be hopefully a win-win, not just for me, but for the other person. Because when we stay in a victim mentality, when we stay in resentment, when we stay in anger, worry, doubt, anxiety, that is not a place of abundance. That's a mindset that is just set for failure. That's a mindset that's set for challenge. It's a mindset that is actually, is spiraling down, unfortunately, and can be very destructive, especially in the holiday seasons when we're around family or friends. And we can start doing things that are not helpful, not productive, and definitely not contributing to our higher selves. So what can we do here to practically prepare for something like a Thanksgiving, something like a holiday? We've got Christmas and New Year's and parties coming up and gatherings, and we're like, inevitably somebody's going to trigger you. Somebody's going to say something. Some family members got some story or background, or you're like, I cannot believe this, or a coworker, may just be acting like a jackass. Maybe they're just not getting it. They're clueless. So what you can do here is you can prepare ahead of time, meaning, what are you going to focus in on? Do you know your tendencies or triggers? If you don't, start writing them down, knowing that, like, okay, I know if such and such, if Uncle Joe says, these things, or he's going to talk about these political things, I know I'm going to be triggered. So I'm going to be purposely not bring up those issues. Or if I'm going to bring it up, I know what to prepare for, or not, how are they going to come? Look and determine, what do you want to focus in on? What is your intention? What is your desired outcome? What do you want? Candidly, be really clear. What do you want? Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to explore that. I was working with a client on that today, and we just deny ourselves the ability to say, well, what even do I want? And if we are not clear on that, we certainly aren't going to get it. So be clear. What do I desire in the circumstances, and start to put that out there in yourself. It's manifest, if you will, if that word works for you. But look at that, and then in the moment, I want you to remember this framework of stop, submit, struggle, and strike. When you're in the moment, you got to stop. If you're being challenged or you're being triggered, remember to stop in your mind and just take that in, whatever they're saying. Don't react. Don't allow them to have power over you, especially when they know you well and they can push your buttons. But shift that conversation to what you appreciate. Or maybe neutral topics, or when conflict emerges. There's nothing wrong, I don't believe, with conflict or collision if it's done in a healthy way. But we have to do that in a way that is coming from a place of humility, a place of empowerment, a place of lifting up others, and not a place of defense. Not a place of self-justification. But if you can come from a place of, I want to help and lift up people, and truly out of a love and charity, that is a good place to be coming from. And oftentimes when we do a stack of a rage stack, for example, we want to follow it up with a gratitude stack, an appreciation stack, because it's starting to shift the energy and the focus from a negative deficit mindset, if you will, to a positive abundance mindset. One book I read years ago is called The Four Agreements. And in that book, it talks about how we can come from an abundance, like we have enough. So then we're not so threatened and triggered, if you will, by others that don't have that understanding. And then after the holiday or after the end of the day or the evening, revisit the stack. Take those emotions, and you're like, if they're still lingering, you're still processing, that's where you want to go in with the stack tool. Really start to dig into it. And if it's appropriate, I would say even share that stack with a person. There's different ways you can share the stack, whether it's just a summary, a lesson learned, or the whole stack. But I found that to be very powerful and honestly healing to the relationship when you're able to open that up and show the process, the work that you've done on yourself, dealing with the resentment, dealing with the frustration. And it was one of the first things I did when I came into the warrior world, was having to learn how to process that. Together, using these tools and knowing you're not alone, you can begin to build resilience, right? You're bouncing back. You have gratitude. You've built this muscle, if you will, as a weapon. In the warrior's way, the weapon is stack. It's a tool that it helps you battle your own demons, your own challenges, and reframes it so that you have gratitude and appreciation. You have revelation and understanding that you didn't have before, and now you can grow and connect. And resentment loses its power when the gratitude and appreciation comes in. We've been able to take it and process it, because we need to process it. We need to go through it. We cannot, I want to encourage you, don't minimize it when you face the resentment. Face whatever that is, or the bitterness. Address it. Embrace it for what it is. Don't deny it in yourself. Realize that this is who I am right now. It's not who I want to be, but it is who I am. This is what I'm experiencing. And then we can start to shift as we purge that. If we go through it and we realize, okay, yeah, that doesn't serve me. That doesn't get me where I want to be. And when we practice this, doing the stack, and I've done it, like I said, days and days on end over many years, and it's really helped me to, wring out, if you will, the resentment, the bitterness. It doesn't mean I can't soak it back in, because I'm human, but it's like a wringing out. It's like letting that go. And so when we do that, this gives us the ability to release the rage. And I'm going to show you this for these that are watching, just a quick little idea of where is this DAC tool and how does this work and what does that look like? And so when you see that over here, there's just different ones that you can access. And I'm showing you the rage one up there on the left, but then you can go through and, look at angry, irritation, guilt, sadness. Maybe you're happy, you're excited, grateful, appreciation, prayer. And then there's either ones down here where you can go through and do more deeper dives on what we call production. But I wanted to focus mostly in power, and this meaning all the emotions, all those things come around them. And as you go through these, there's ways that you can break them down and just ask you the story. And it's an iterative process where you're breaking that down and going through. And so when you go through it, it simply is going to ask you questions and get at what is the story here, and ask you a series of questions. And then you can go through and use this tool to get clearer on what really is important and what really is helping me here, and what's not helping me. So that's a big quick preview into the Warrior app, because I don't have enough time on the podcast, as I like to say, that unfortunately to go deep dive. But I want to give you a tool and a resource and understanding. Remember the 4 parts to the framework: stop, submit, struggle, and strike. When you do that, when this resentment and bitterness comes, you can get through it. You can be much healthier on the other side. I want to encourage you guys to, of course, be thankful. Look for ways we can gratitude as we go into Thanksgiving, as we go to the end of the year, and cultivate gratitude, but realizing that you can't get to gratitude and appreciation when you have bitterness and resentment residing in you. It eats away at you. And I don't want you to be held by rage, anger, bitterness, that sourness, if you will. But I want there to be a sweetness to you in a way of, you've processed it. You have a light in you. You have a joy in you. You have a peace about you that is different than anyone else, because you have processed this. You've come to a place of fullness and a place where people just can't help but be around you because they see the goodness in you, meaning you're leaning in and you're exuding out and removing out the contaminant and the poison, if you will, of bitterness and resentment. And you're becoming a person and transforming yourself into that most intelligent leader, leading with love, leading with appreciation, leading with gratitude, being a person that is coming from an abundance, able to give and provide more than they've ever gotten from anybody else, because they are connected, in my opinion, to a God, to a higher source of strength and understanding and appreciation. Knowing that, number one, you are loved, you're appreciated, you mean a lot. And that's why I'm here on the Intelligent Human Leader podcast, to know that you have an advocate in me and Steward Your Business, and one that's fighting for your highest good. And for those of you that are looking for a community, looking for a connection, don't want to go it alone, want to be with other people that are on this pursuit together, then reach out to me and let's talk, and let's get you involved in our ongoing community and connection, whether it's an individual or a larger group. We have both available, and I'm excited to be able to offer those to you. And as we head into 2025, there's so much more to come. Again, you sharing your comments, liking, subscribing, leaving a 5-star review means the world to me. It means I'm able to reach more folks and help you become that intelligent human leader. I appreciate you all for joining me again here on this week's episode of the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. Until next time, take good care and have a wonderful Thanksgiving season. Thanks, everybody.